Alright, so now we want to add something for if they do use it correctly. So we have our help information. Alright, so if no command line argument, then do this. But what if they do have a command line argument? Then we can use an else statement. If, then this, else. So above the backwards if, we want an else. Now we're going to use something called a for loop. There are different kinds of loops. There's like a while loop. But while and for are generally the ones you're going to see the most of. But what we want to do is say for x in, and then we want the backwards quote, single quote sequence seq 1 to 254 backwards single quote colon do. So again, this is going to be programming language specific. I mean, the key idea here is that we want to do something over and over again a certain amount of times based on certain value. So basically for x in sequence 1 to 254. So x is going to be 1 the first time, 2 the next time, 3 the next time, so on and so forth. All the way up to 254. After 254, it'll finish and the for loop will be over. So for x in sequence 1 to 254, do, so I want to ping, and I want to ping my network combined. So again, my first command line argument is going to be my network. A dot will concatenate. Actually, that's not true. They'll just concatenate by themselves. So like that would be it. But we need the dot between it. We would need 192.168.1 dot, and then whatever comes next, and then we want x, so whatever x is. So the first time, so if we give it 192.168.1 as our command line argument, the first time through we'll get 192.168.1.1, the next time 192.168.1.2, so on and so forth, all the way up to 254. So each time x will be one more. And then to finish, do done. So that denotes the end of the for loop. Again, we have the end of the if at the bottom. We can go ahead and save that. You may have noticed something that's wrong. So if I give it command line argument 192.168.1 in my case. So instead of doing a ping sweep here, we're actually just pinging 192.168.1.1 over and over and over again. So that varies from operating system to operating system. On Windows, by default, it only pings 4 times. In Linux, it's just going to ping forever unless we tell it otherwise. So this isn't very useful. So can we perhaps fix this? Of course, we're going to be here forever. Do Control-Z to get rid of it. So can we fix this? My first place that I would generally go to is the man page. And I want to see if there's some way I can tell it I just want to ping once. And sure enough, there is. This -C for count. Stop after sending count echo request packets. So that will allow us to not ping forever. So streamline this a bit. So we want to do ping-C 1. So that should fix our problem. So we got yes from 1, looks like no from 2, no from 3, no from 4, so on and so forth. It will go through and try everything up to 254. I do have other VMs running as well as like my printers around here somewhere and whatnot since I'm on the bridge network. So everything that's on the network will call back to me. If it does respond to ping, which again, it may not and still be up. I'll do my Control-Z to get rid of it. So the output is not that attractive, right? The output is in fact pretty terrible. So what did we learn in our previous section that could be helpful? Did we do some data manipulation? Well, what if we look back at our results, when we get a response, we get the 64 bytes from IP address. But if we don't get a response, it looks like we get destination host unreachable. So what if we just want to see the ones that are up? That's our goal here, is we want to see which ones are responding to ping. So what if I pipe my output and grep 64 bytes. What did I do wrong? Doesn't see it as a string. Need to put quotations around this. So now we're not getting all of that output. All we're getting is our 64 bytes from 192.168.1.1. And if I waited long enough, I would get some more, like, we know this one's 77, there's a 76, so they're a bit higher up. Right now we're just hitting the router. Yours may be different. So what we really want is this IP address here. We don't need all of this 64 bytes from and whatnot. So what we can do is we can use that cut command, pipe this into cut. Delimiter is going to be space, and what field do we want? So let's see. So this is field 1, field 2, field 3, field 4. So we want field 4. See what we get now. Almost there. We have just that extraneous colon on the end, which is fine. It's perfectly readable. But if we want to put the output of this script into another script or into another program, if we need, say, for instance, a list of live IP addresses that we can use, then this isn't going to be ideal. So we need some way to get rid of this. So you might have to do some Googling for this one. We didn't show it in the previous module, but I mentioned it. One way to do this would be to use the sed command, and the correct syntax for that is single quote s slash dot dollar sign slash slash single quote. So basically that's saying take the last character and turn it into nothing. That honestly would probably be something I would Google. My sed is not all that awesome. So let's try that. Now it looks perfect. So if we let that run, that would go through and hit all of our IP addresses, and it would find additional systems open. We could of course do that append, so we could do the double greater than signs to send this all to a file. So if we wanted to save all our live IP addresses to a file, we could input it later into another script. We could do that as well. Again, just a little example of scripting with bash. It's certainly worth knowing, if only to make your life a little bit easier. Maybe not as functional as some of the higher level languages, but if you know how to type into a Linux terminal, you can probably do some basics with bash. You just have to get your syntax for your ifs and your fors and your whiles and your other loops. It might not be something you're familiar with. Even if you are familiar with another programming language, it is a bit different. I don't typically see that like backwards if and then the colon do. That's not something you typically see in a lot of your other languages. So it may always be a little bit new to you. It's really difficult to be completely fluent in all the programming languages for sure. You'll certainly get mixed up. So let's look at Python next. So we are going to use Python in our exploit development section. And again, I am going to give you Python scripts or skeletons. So all you'll have to do is work on the actual exploit string. You won't have to worry about like setting up a network socket in Python and things like that. But I do encourage you to learn it. Python is used a lot in information security. We like our Python. We also use Ruby a lot. And so knowing one or both of those would definitely be worthwhile.